And welcome back to TIA 2014, day 2 of our 3-day conference on the network of the future here in Dallas, Texas. With us in the Dell TI Now studio to talk about the latest with Intel, Dell, and the Red Hat partnership and the value they bring to the industry is Franklin Flint. He's Global Telecom Strategist and Marketing Director of Dell OEM Solutions. Next to him is Sandra Rivera. She's Director of Market Development for the Communications and Storage Infrastructure Group at Intel. And next to Sandra is Daryl Jordan Smith. He's the Head of Communications and Media Vertical at Red Hat. And first of all, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
All three of their company cultures rather, are similar. They allow for open sourcing to enable increased competition. However, how do you quell the perception by some in the industry that what they do can be replicated by others, especially in this age of open platforms, sourcing, and standards? And Daryl, I'll start with you. Can a similar company to Red Hat develop their own source code to make their products and services work? And what makes you unique?
Well, what makes Red Hat unique is really the fact that we're one of the largest contributors to the open source community. So we don't only take images down from the open source community, we contribute significant amounts of code back up into that community. And yes, you're right, everyone can take those images and innovate on it faster and faster, which then drives opportunity and quality associated with the products. And we differentiate ourselves through delivering those services, providing the SLAs, the certifications, the indemnification around the image that you acquire through the subscriptions you acquire through Red Hat.
Franklin, by the same token, can't one of your competitors, big or small, aggregate their own OEM equipment and just sell it to the highest bidder? What makes Dell unique?
That's a good question. Dell is unique in a lot of ways. One of the big ones is we have years of experience doing this, and we built an organization around the art of OEMing hardware and services and doing integration for our customers. And along those lines, we also go deep into our supply chain and use all the great services and capabilities that we've already developed for our large global business. We don't try to reinvent the wheel and do something unique just for OEM. We do things that we already do well and bring that to everybody and allow all our customers to take advantage of that.
Sandra, how do you move the needle forward over at Intel to enable the ecosystem to remain and increase the competitiveness within that ecosystem? And how do you relate that back to partnerships with companies like Red Hat?
Well, on the topic of open platforms, we are a huge believer in open creates more opportunity for broad market participation and faster innovation. So while you look at it as open being a double-edged sword, it really is up to any individual company to out-innovate and out-execute the competition, and we're very comfortable in that space. From an ecosystem perspective, you really do need to embrace the broader market participation, enable them in terms of tools and capabilities, and we have quite a big investment in just that entire portfolio of software, hardware enabling, reference architectures, and just a number of ways that we lower that barrier to entry and then speed the success of each individual company that wants to participate in the market.
Daryl, staying on the competition track, why are the services that you provide at Red Hat so attractive to telcos out there?
Well, first of all, they're open in that they can choose any particular vendor they want to acquire them from. We don't lock any one vendor or one product in to our overall solution. So, we're very, very attractive because the cost of exit of working with Red Hat is as low as you can possibly get, and the ability to innovate upon what we provide is significantly greatly enhanced in terms of what they're trying to achieve. So as a consequence of that, we provide services, we provide subscriptions that enable them to feel comfortable that the product they're acquiring from Red Hat or the service they're acquiring from Red Hat is supportable over the long term. And if they feel that there's another component out there in the open source community they can bring in, they can easily do that. We believe in choice, and we believe that we need to compete through differentiation through the services that we provide.
Franklin, as you know, as we move towards a software-defined network, there's again perception in the industry that hardware will become commoditized. How do you make a distinction between, and is it important, by the way, to make a distinction between standard infrastructure and commoditized hardware?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good question to be asking, because there's a lot of confusion out there about the importance of the quality of the engineering that goes into the products. You can't just take all the ingredients, slap them together, and deliver them into a network and get the quality, the uptime, the reliability, even the consistency that you're going to need if you're going to build a network on this and run your business on it. So companies like Dell and the other tier ones are essential in bringing these really high quality commercial off-the-shelf platforms to market that can provide that assurance of quality, the supportability around the globe, the consistency of delivering over the life cycle of the product, and the ability to have high quality products throughout the thing. The supply chain going all the way back to where capacitor supply parts are manufactured from is really important. It's not just meeting a spec, it's knowing that everything goes into it as a high quality component.
Sandra, I want to ask you why telcos are following this open source strategy. Isn't that counter to gaining a foothold in the market and getting your market share?
No, because what they really want is, as Franklin was just describing, is the benefit of volume economics, right? And the more you ride up that volume curve in terms of standard high volume server, the more you ride up the quality curve to address the reliability and security concerns, and then the further you ride down the cost curve. So from that perspective, the communication service providers want exactly what the cloud service providers have been able to benefit from in terms of volume economics of server and virtualization technology. And the opportunity that they have to open up their networks and then monetize all of that intellectual capital, all of that contextual information that is today quite locked into a set of siloed platforms that don't talk to each other, is a huge opportunity for them to also innovate faster and really grow their top line, not just manage their bottom line.
Daryl, the title of this segment is Leaders in Ecosystem Enablement. You made, or there was an announcement made at Mobile World Congress just a few months back about how you were allowing increased competition within the industry. Since then, has there been any further announcements of any partnerships to that effect?
Well, with Dell, for instance, we've enhanced our partnership by going deeper and better around OpenStack and OpenShift, which is both our infrastructure as a service and platform as a service technologies, in order to make sure that that infrastructure level, our products work very, very well with Intel's and Dell's platform. So we have a situation now where we can bring an ecosystem of ISVs to the table who know that they have the best performant software and hardware in any solution they wish to acquire.
Franklin, would you echo what Daryl said?
Absolutely. So that work has continued on. We've made additional launches and announcements around that, like at Red Hat Summit and other things. And there's going to be more coming out as we work through the year. In fact, at Intel Developers Forum in September, we're going to have some announcements around some of the new products we have coming as well.
Franklin, yesterday we had a chance to talk briefly before this panel discussion about the Domain 2.0 supplier conference and I guess the, not release of Domain 2.0, but just bringing that out to the industry. And it's an invite-only event, is that right?
Yes.
Well, number one, I want to ask you why, but number two, when you're dealing with a number of vendors, which is what Domain 2.0 is really all about, what are the challenges there as opposed to the old way of doing things?
Well, a company like AT&T is able to, in the past, in fact, all their competitors as well, would go to one vendor and say, I need a complete solution, and I'm going to hold you completely accountable for that solution working exactly right all the time. And then that vendor would work on building it together and putting it together and delivering it and supporting it over the life of the product. It took a long time. It was very expensive, as you can imagine. And AT&T is now saying, let's get away from that. Rather than going to one company and saying, figure it out with us, they're going to all the suppliers and saying, you guys work together. We want to pick and choose from the best of breed for our solution, and it needs to work. I don't want to have to hire someone and pay them a lot of money to figure out how to make it work. Let's just make sure everything can work together. And that leads to the open standards. It leads to compatibility discussions. It leads to everyone being a player in the game. And then AT&T gets more choice, and they can do exactly what they need to do for their market with the best suppliers out there. And I think that's really interesting, but the challenge is, can all the players in the market work together? Can we all do the same thing? Can you take Dell out and put someone else in? Can you take any other software supplier out and put someone else in? And is it all going to work together and still supply the services they need to supply?
Sandra, I want to ask you about, and I'm going to shift gears just for a moment, I want to ask you about Intel's role in the supply chain. How can you, and in staying on the track of ecosystem enablement, how can you advance your role in the supply chain in order to allow your customers, your partners and suppliers, or your partners and customers rather, sorry, to bring their products to market faster, increase their TTM?
Well, two things that we've done very purposefully over the last several years. One is to engage with our customers, and this really speaks to the deep relationships that we've developed with the communication service providers. By understanding much better the pain points, the challenges, the opportunities, and then building that back into our roadmap of hardware and software ingredients, given the long life cycles, or development cycles, I should say, that are indicative of course, silicon development. It does allow us to prefetch and anticipate some of those needs a lot better. And it's been very successful in terms of many of the proof of concepts that we've done over the past several years to prove that technically it's quite feasible to deploy using general purpose processing in the network. When we look then at our direct customers and our broader ecosystem, we do a number of things. Clearly, from an overall technical enabling perspective, I spoke to earlier, we have a robust capability of software and hardware application specialists to enable them to design with our ingredients and take advantage of a lot of those attributes that are inherent in the silicon and in the software platform. We also then, through the proof of concepts that we've done, capture many of those learnings in what we call reference architectures. And we publish them broadly on our Network Builders community so that, again, we enable more learning. We try to take some of the trial and error out of each individual company going through that process, and we publish those recipes for how to actually build solutions in a modular fashion, so you can take in or take out particular components that best fit your applications and your platform and customer requirements. So through a combination of the technology enabling, but also that scaling capability of capturing the reference architectures, the recipes, we're trying to get to market faster.
Daryl, we like to ask our guests at the end of each panel session that we do here at TI Now, what you expect to focus on over the next 18 months and what we can cover for you at that time. So let's say we speak in another year from now, hopefully it's not that long. What do you expect to focus on during that time, and what can we cover at that time?
Well, I think what we're going to be talking about in 18 months' time are, the results of the proof of concepts that we're currently working with a lot of the service providers. I think you're going to be talking to us about, what are the functionalities in some of the core technology that we've added over that period of time, and what meaningful benefit that delivers to end customers, service providers, and the complete ecosystem surrounding that.
Franklin?
Very similarly, working together with Red Hat and Intel, we have lots of proof of concepts out there working. It'll be interesting to see the results of those, and then some of them may actually go into early pilot deployments and things like that. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. As well as, I think the ecosystem is going to grow. We're going to have more participants. There'll be more choice available to people on an open standard architecture, which I'm very excited about.
Sandra?
Well, I do believe we will be in that ramp phase 18 months from now. There's no question, and I think when we talk again, if it's that long, a year out, at that point we will have some of those results. But we'll also start to see where some of the challenges are in terms of the actual deployments and the operationalization aspects of deploying using these architectural principles. I think we'll start to understand much better how you integrate to the legacy infrastructure, how you address the integration to the OSS and the BSS platforms with the older infrastructure, as well as the new greenfield opportunities to deploy, and then how that separation from the hardware or the infrastructure substrate from the applications that will use the underlying compute network and storage ingredients is really working. And I think it'll just give us a lot more focus in terms of what are the remaining challenges to really that mass deployment, which will happen, I think, the latter part of the decade, really.
It's a pleasure for TI Now to be able to follow the progress made, not only with your companies respectively, but all three of you as partners. So we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us on our coverage of TIA's Network of the Future conference. The Dell TI Now studio will be streaming live throughout the conference. You can view our live stream and all of our programming at tinow.org. So long.